We are crotchety old men.
And a woman.
We are crotchety old men.
And a woman.
I am crotchety. She is crotchety. We are crotchety old men.
And a woman that does get crotchety.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to episode 16 of We Are Crotchety Old Men. I think I have to continue to change that song a little. So instead of at the end, like, we are crotchety old men and a woman, it should just, we're just crotchety or something like that. Anyway, feel free to reach out to us and let us know if we should change the song again. Thank you, Alfred, was the first person to let us know about the song, about changing it, and including Abigail on that. And I think it works really well for us. So, this is our 16th episode of We Are Crotchety Old Men, the podcast that is hopefully for you, with you, maybe even about you. In this episode, we don't have any guests today, so it's just Abigail and I going solo. But we do have some general housekeeping things I would like to start off with. We only have one email, and I will let Abigail explain that, but momentarily. But right now, I do wish to welcome. I wish Alfred a happy birthday. That we actually were planning on doing this yesterday. So, Alfred, happy birthday! Hopefully, you're celebrating with a long bike ride in the middle of nowhere, like you normally do. Uh, the second thing is next week we are going to hopefully have a guest from Nick's Flicks podcast. Nick is I've been in contact with him through Twitter, and he actually reviews movies with his group. I actually listened to a couple of them, and it was pretty funny. Even the very beginning, I don't know if that is his son that's on there or who the little kid is, but I actually found that pretty funny. So if you want to get some good movie reviews that are fun, check out at Nick's Flicks Podcast on Twitter. Then we have what else do we got going on here? We have a very quick question for Abigail. Sorry, Abigail. I actually went to the grocery store today, or the supermarket, as my mom would call it, and so there was Christmas decorations up. Is It's not even Halloween yet, and they got the Christmas decorations on that. What are your thoughts?
Well, Arden, I think you need to recognize that that's been a pattern for many, many, many years.
Okay, so you're not in favor of having all these decorations up already when maybe after Halloween, maybe just let it go.
I'm fine with it being early. I
Oh.
mean, Christmas is my favorite time of the year.
Awesome, awesome. So anyway, uh, a we have a fact check email that was written by, I believe it was Antoinette, reached out
Mm-hmm.
back to us. So what was the email? Just a little curious.
I mean, basically, I made, I misspoke last week when I was talking about the dress code in the Senate and Congress. I inadvertently said that changing the dress code or dumbing it down for John Fetterman was based on a bipartisan vote. And that simply was flat out wrong. It was just Chuck Schumer, the head of the Senate, that made that new rule. But when voting it back to the way it should be, that had bipartisan support.
Now, I actually never saw the final vote. Did you see the final vote for that? Because did Fetterman vote for it or against it?
I don't know, and I really don't care.
So that was actually a question that we had. Now we actually wanted to uh, well, I'm assuming everyone in the audience got that emergency alert on Wednesday. Did you get it? I'm assuming everyone did.
Yes.
What now with that? What was it for? I actually don't remember.
It was basically to test a national warning that could be put out to all federal level, state level, county level. in all the U.S. territories, so they could have an emergency alert system. I was in a meeting with about 10 people, and suddenly everyone's phone went off. And I wasn't aware of what was happening, and I didn't have my phone either. But apparently I missed out on that. It was basically a broadcasting emergency drill.
Which was now, of course, the conspiracy guy in me. Of course, my brother's listening. He's probably like, "Oh boy, here we go." I actually, my first thought was, "Oh wow, ping everyone in the United States and all of its territories. The government now knows exactly where your cell phone is, which most likely is where you were, all magically." Anyway, that was just me, my own opinion. And to my brother, yeah, I know that it was actually a joke. So, speaking of conspiracies, you really wanted to talk about the NFL.
I
Uh,
I do. Go
okay,
on.
go for it. Go for it. What do you got for me on the NFL?
Well, I mean, all of this isn't current news, but of course, we got to start off with Taylor Swift and this phenomenon where the networks, not necessarily the commentators, but the networks are trying to basically start a soap opera within the sport of the NFL. And it simply is just not appropriate.
Mm.
The last game she was at with the Jets, they showed her 29 times during the broadcast.
So is it that they're just trying to get like more women involved, or do you think it's just to drive interest in the NFL?
I think it's just about driving interest and essentially having a soap opera set up and to see how they'll carry it along as long as they can.
Because I I do not follow the NFL. Maybe I'll get into it later. I actually only watch the NFL because Abigail is a huge fan, as you probably can tell. So I watch it with her. But I actually thought, was this? I might have to reach out to Grandma Edna to find out if this is what it was like when Joe DiMaggio was dating Marilyn Monroe. Like, I wonder if like that drew attention to the Yankees at all, or maybe her films. I have no clue. I don't know anything about Taylor Swift, or what's the guy's name? Kleiss,
Kelsey.
Kelsey. I'm sorry. So so yeah. This is not my ballpark.
Listen, I have nothing against Taylor Swift, except I'm very impressed with her. Um, Overall, she writes her own songs, but this tour that she is on, called Eras, is quite demanding, and it's pretty amazing that she's getting through it. I think I read that it's a 44 song set list, which is just crazy. And overall, the revenue she is generating for a lot of people that work for her is approximately $1 billion just for this concert series alone. So, again, I have nothing against her, but I do have a beef with the NFL trying to draw her into this, again, this storyline that her and Kelsey are going to just fall in love and get married, and where will it end? I read the headline that it can be for a number of reasons, but the NFL is down 4 million viewers,
Hmm.
and maybe it is connected to Taylor Swift. We just don't know.
Now, oh, it's down 4 million viewers now. It's
Yes.
not, so it wasn't like 4 million from, so 4 million from last year, or because I know like there's a bunch of people that I work with were talking about it, and what the people are called, like the Swifties or something.
Yes, there's again, it's the 4 million basically is a decrease from last week.
That's amazing.
Or sorry, the last 2 weeks. But just for this afternoon's game, with the they were playing the Vikings. Taylor didn't show up, but there were some fans with Viking jerseys that had, instead of the name of a player, that it had Swifties on it.
Oh,
So,
okay.
it's the start of a trend that's going to probably end badly.
Were they men or were they women wearing it?
They were women.
Okay, because that's how you get beat up at a football stadium when you're wearing Swifty on the back of your jersey. So now what other things? Because you said that you were kind of annoyed about in the NFL about a few things. What else did you got?
Well, I have a lot to discuss about the NFL. Let's just start with the sexism when it comes to the commentators.
Okay.
If you pay attention, obviously, the two main commentators are always men. And that's probably appropriate since most of them are ex NFL players. But the people on the ground, those commentators, 99% of the time are women. And it just seems that they're having the same formula year after year after year, and eventually it's going to have to change. The other thing I want to mention is my personal preference is to never ever have to listen to a game with Tony Romo,
Okay.
Chris Collinsworth,
Uh-huh.
and if we go back in time, does everybody remember Bob Costas?
Oh yeah. He's like the voice of everything.
He really was the beginning of wokeism in the NFL.
Mm-hmm.
And he loved to have this 1 minute time period to talk about social issues. And it basically was a turnoff. And he ended up leaving NBC over that.
Wow. Yeah. I do remember, and that's kind of when I stopped watching the NFL. Like I myself, like I was a huge NFL fanatic back in the day. My brother, I believe it was my brother, for Christmas bought me a Dan Marino life-size cutout. I am a huge Dolphin. I'm sorry, I was a huge Dolphin fan up until they got Ricky Weeks, and I could not stand the fact that the guy was just. Now you have to think about this. This was like before the year 2000 when drug use was still a very bad thing, and so they brought this guy who admitted smoking pot all the time and didn't care, and that turned me up to the Dolphins. And eventually, I just stopped following the NFL. I still watch college. I watch some college football. Go Terps! And I'm now an XFL fan. Now, did you see recently the XFL is going to merge with the USFL?
I did.
And if Dwayne the Rock Johnson, if you are listening, first of all, that would be freaking amazing. But if you are listening, please keep the cities. Like it was so bad. I could not watch the USFL games because why be a New Jersey General fan if there's not a single game in New Jersey? Such a waste of time. Anyway, I apologize for taking your time. I just wanted to throw my support behind it. Um, I agree 100% as I am not an NFL fan for a lot of these same reasons, and there's even more. So feel free, go get them.
Okay, I'm going to talk about a few, going back several seasons that, essentially the NFL has injected social justice messages. And essentially, when they've done that, they risk alienating fans. An example outside of the NFL was the March Madness. What was her name or his name?
Not Dylan. Yeah, it was Dylan. Dylan Mulvaney.
Right,
Yes.
and in that case, the ratings for the basketball tournament didn't go down, but it's certain the stock price for Bud Light did
Yep.
very rapidly. But let me get back to
The NFL.
The NFL.
There you go.
And the main thing now is the helmets, the back of the helmets. They contain some stains that I can understand, but when you see one that says "Choose Love" or "Inspire Change," I just find those odd. Because especially when you say "inspire change," that could mean a million things. And if we're going to go down that route, maybe they should broaden it and indicate things like "don't litter" or "save the environment."
That would be useful.
Right. I mean, How about be kind to animals?
Yeah. Oh, yes.
How about don't beat your wife up?
How about look, put the seat down? Sorry, I had to throw what I would get yelled at for.
Yeah, I mean, and then I mean, where could it end? I mean, it even can get political and indicate stop government waste.
Right. Going green.
Essentially, I just believe that these types of issues have nothing to do with the game, and that a lot of people have been alienated against it for these reasons.
And I mean, it started a long time ago. Like, I think it might even have been Rush Limbaugh who actually talked about it. And I remember this was years and years ago. And I think I think it was baseball that actually was the first to do it with their breast cancer awareness. And I remember Rush Limbaugh actually coming out and saying, "Where does it stop now? It could be any cause." Now, yes, I mean, I actually thought, hey, that was pretty cool. Everyone was wearing pink. They had the pink bats, and even today they still do it. But now they do it for prostate cancer. But at least they're not wearing brown, thank goodness. They're wearing light blue. But now it could be any cause, any issue. I mean, it could be, like, hey, we have to have, we got to save the whales. We need to save the environment from the whales. Going back to a previous episode. But it's just gotten out of hand. So I can't say it's another reason why I don't like the NFL, but it's definitely a reason why I haven't gone back to being a fan. So, is there any more other reasons you were still a little irked? You're
Well,
crotchety about
I
this.
mean, one thing that has bothered me since the famous Ray Lewis resigned or retired from the Baltimore Ravens. Is it? Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. He
Um,
was arrested, right? For
yeah.
he
Basically
killed
for a
manslaughter.
double stabbing
Hmm.
and blood. I think I remember reading once that he had blood all over his white suit, but for some reason, the charges against him were dropped magically, and that one has always stuck with me, and is an example of how famous people get away with things. Um, there were a couple incidences where justice was served. A guy named Caruth from the Carolina Panthers,
Hmm.
he had his girlfriend killed because she was pregnant. And he did face consequences, and he is, I believe, still in prison to this day. And finally, I'll just say, obviously there's the Hernandez story from
Oh,
the
yeah.
Patriots. Um, he didn't get away, and in the end, he couldn't take it, and he ended his life. But there's lots of stories about the NFL, but I think I've touched upon way too many already. So I'm going to hand it over to
Hmm.
Arden.
Now you're not going anywhere. Now you still watch the NFL though.
Yes, because I really enjoy the game.
And would you go to a game? Would you pay money to go to it? Oh, tough question.
It is. I mean, it depends if the team is doing really well. Yeah, I'd want to go see it.
Okay. And who's your favorite team?
Well, I'm a fan of the Washington Redskins. Oh, wait a minute, the Commanders. Because I grew up, my dad had season tickets, and most importantly, they were actually good. But once the team was sold to Schneider, it just never worked out year after year after year. And this season, with the new ownership, things were getting exciting. But they looked miserable this past week and lost to the Bears, who had not lost a game. I'm sorry, who had not won a game 14 straight. But they got the win with the Redskins.
So there you have it. You should be a sports broadcaster now. So with that, I would actually like to no longer add anything. I don't really have much to add because I'm not an NFL guy. I don't know. Like I couldn't tell you who's in first place or like I said, I was a Dolphins fan and quick one last NFL story. I actually became a Dolphins fan because back in the day, For some of you people who don't remember what black and white TV was, in the 70s, I was a big fan of Abbott and Costello. And for some reason, they were on every Sunday, right when it was kickoff. And my dad and my brother are big Jet fans. I never got to watch Abbott and Costello, except I'd have to watch it on the black and white TV, even though they were in black and white. I didn't know because they were watching the games they would actually watch football, NFL. They were watching the Jets. And so I'm sitting there. I'm like, I hate football. Blah, blah, blah. So I became a Dolphins fan because in the 70s and early 80s, the Dolphins were always beating the Jets. And my dad hated it. My brother hated it. So that's how I became an actual Dolphin fan. Now I have no clue who, like, I don't know anything about either team.
Well, I think we move on. But so Arden, I asked you earlier this week if you were going to get the 3-day weekend, and I believe you said yes. But I've never gotten Columbus Day off.
Really? So this is a story that happened, and I would like to really touch base on this because I actually was because working for in the federal government, we always have Columbus Day off. Now we had a meeting the other day. It was maybe like 2 weeks ago with one of the guys who was on our commercial side, and he's out in California, and and we said, yeah, we're actually off for Columbus Day, and he literally objected immediately. He goes, no, it is Indigenous Peoples Day. And we were like, what are you talking about? It's Columbus Day. It's a federally and he's like, no, here in California, it is Indigenous Peoples Day. So of course that was very uncomfortable, and I was of course concerned that I was going to get into a political argument over Columbus Day versus Indigenous Peoples Day. But it reminded me of when one of my relatives, I'm not going to mention her name, she had a debate with one of my friends at a bar. And we all thought that Native persons was actually the right thing to say. And she said, no, it's not. Because she actually is three quarters, and I apologize if it was Algonquin and I forgot the name of the tribe off the top of my head. I'm sorry. But she said, no, that's what we are. She's like, we're not Mohawk. We're not Seminole. We're not Iroquois. This is what we are. She goes, how would you guys like it if we just kept calling you, Europeans all the time? She goes, no, you're Greek, you're Italian. She goes, you're whatever you are. You're Spanish, you're this, you're that. She goes, we're not all the same down here. So I for years I like remember that argument. And now, of course, there's a different type of state system. I'm not going to go into it because that could take a little way too much time. But it was fascinating. So now I actually did a lot of history on Columbus in the past because like there's so many different theories of like why it is so hated by some and so beloved by others. Um, First off, he didn't actually discover North America. He landed in the Bahamas. Then he went to the Isle of Hispaniola, which is now the Dominican Republic and Haiti. Now, a lot of things that he did and his crew did were quite horrendous. There's accounts that he may have killed over 10,000 people on the islands because he found that some of them had gold. Now, the whole reason he was there, I'm not defending Columbus in this way, but he was there to find a safe passage to India. Another reason why the native peoples, I'm using that in quotes, are called Indians is because that's what they thought they just landed on an island off the coast of India, which right off the bat is pretty interesting. Another argument was that he started the slave trade. Well, that actually it was a different type of slaves, but slavery has always existed in the Americas and all over the world, just a different form. It's not the slaves that we come to recognize, like working on a plantation, things along those lines. I mean, you think about like the Aztecs who would take prisoners and would make them their slaves and eventually sacrifice them as well. So when he used these people, they were beaten, because they were inferior to him and his crew. But the other thing that it's he himself was carrying out the orders of Spain because no, so he's an Italian explorer who got funding from Spain nowhere else. And so with him, he launched an entire, he's celebrated not for what he did as the individual, but what he did in theory of uniting the world pretty much. Because there were other explorers that actually have landed in America. For example, in Newfoundland, Canada, the Vikings landed there hundreds of years before then. In fact, the Minnesota Vikings are actually named after runes that were found in Minnesota. So they believe the Vikings actually got all the way to Minnesota. It's also found that there's DNA in a lot of people who lived in Mexico that is Chinese. So they believe that Chinese actually landed in the American Southwest and in Mexico. We don't have any timetables of this, but it's just amazing that we blame a man for what he did or what he didn't do, but the bigger picture of uniting, bringing the entire world together. And at the time, a few in the year 1478, the Spanish Inquisition was going on. So you had people being killed for not being Christians. And so it was a different world. It was a different time. But to tear down this man's statues, to destroy what he actually brought to the entire world. So maybe you don't celebrate the man. And sometimes you could just celebrate the achievements of him, if that makes sense. That's my own personal opinion. I don't want to state that as fact because there was good, there was bad. And there was some unique, interesting things that have had it. And I greatly apologize. And hold on one second.
Arden, I'm pretty impressed that you know all this information. But I just checked the federal holidays. Columbus Day is still identified as Columbus Day, and that day, a day will probably come where they will change it. But I really hope they don't. I like traditions. Right now, Christmas still stands as the holiday recognized by the federal government. And that's another one that I hope never goes away. But going back to Columbus.
Oh, well, I mean, that's actually an amazing point because if you take away Columbus, the man, and you want to take Christmas away from Christ, we're opening ourselves up to celebrating the true values of our beliefs, our structure. With Columbus, we are celebrating the person. I mean, he's recognized in the United States. In fact, Columbus Day itself was only supposed to be a one-time thing. Where there was 11 Italians were massacred in Louisiana. And the president of the United States was really worried because back then Italians were not a major part of the United States at that point. Mm-hmm. They were later on. It was the Irish, and they were a group of people. How the melting pot started, and so these people were massacred. So he wanted to represent and say, "Hey, let's find an Italian hero." And for one day, it was a national holiday. And from there, the Italians pushed it, and obviously, like the state of New York made it an official holiday. And soon, all these other states joined in and eventually became a federal holiday. In fact, it was one of the first federal holidays ever to be recognized. Now, it's only recognized in 16 states as the state holiday. So we have changed. There are other holidays as well. In fact, here in Virginia, there's Columbus Day and also Yorktown Victory Day. It's the same exact day. So you never know where things are going to go, but it is one day. It's a beautiful day. If you're off, congratulations, enjoy it, have some fun, but think about the history of where we came from. And if you are one of those people who are adamantly opposed to it, that's fine too. just understand that without him, uh, what would have changed? I mean, excuse me, Spain would not have been, people wouldn't be speaking Spanish. I mean, the entire world would be different without him. So it's a holiday for some, and it's a dreaded holiday for others, if that makes sense.
I guess. I mean, Arden, the bottom line is I'm not getting the day off. So that makes me crotchety. And I've never gotten it off. But, you know, there's still hope. Maybe one day.
Maybe one day. And never mind. I was going to mention our newest federal holiday, but I'm going to go run away with that one. Anyway, we are crotchety old men.
And a woman.
We are crotchety old men.
And a woman.
I am crotchety. She is crotchety. We are crotchety old men.
It's actually one man and a woman.
Thanks, everyone. Have a wonderful evening and happy Columbus Day.
Good night.